Hi everyone, it's good to be back. I've had a lot going on lately, and that's why I haven't come on in a while. I had to have a full hip replacement, and that was done on September 16th. And everything with the surgery went really well. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm still in physical therapy, but my hip is healing very, very well. But now my back, that's a different story. I just went to see an orthopedic back surgeon last week. And he says I have spinal stenosis, which is, I guess, where you have severe arthritis and it narrows and pushes on nerves, which causes the pain. And he is recommending surgery. He said it wouldn't be as bad of a surgery as another location on the back. This one's a little more, I guess it's easier. The recovery is easier. So it would be surgery on L2 and L3. And so anyway, that's what he's recommending. So I guess I have some big decisions. I am absolutely terrified of back surgery. I really am. So if you could please pray for me about this situation, I would greatly appreciate it. So, because I just don't know what to do. It's pretty scary. So anyway, today's teaching, I wanted to bring you to Exodus chapter 17. And it would be verses 8 through 13. And this is about Amalek. Joshua was fighting Amalek. So we'll start with verse 8. Now Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, "Choose us some men and go out fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And so it was when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Okay. So what the Lord showed me in this account is Moses is a type of Christ. And as long as he had to have his hands lifted high and hold them there, then Israel prevailed. So if Moses is a type of Yeshua, Jesus, then Jesus was also crucified with two people, two criminals, one on his right and one on his left. So Aaron and Hur would represent the two criminals. And they helped elevate Moses' hands. And they seated him on a rock. So as long as we are on the rock, Christ, we will prevail. So that is powerful. And so all three of them went up to the top of the hill. So that's Calvary as they go up. And Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. So Jesus could have said, forget this, and got off of the cross. He could have called on 12 legions of angels and said, get me off of this right now. I can't handle this pain, this suffering. I can't handle the ridicule, the blasphemy. Get me down from this cross right now. But Jesus did not do that. In fact, so it also mentions that Moses' hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Jesus was crucified on the 9th hour, right at sunset when they were slaughtering the lambs for the Passover at twilight. So that's what I wanted to show you in those verses. Also, Amalek is a descendant of Esau. So hold on to that. Put that in your back pocket because we're going to come back to that. Okay? So then the Lord brought me to Matthew 27. And that would be verses 38 through 44. Actually, we'll start with 37. They put up over his head the accusation written against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and the other on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." You don't think that that was seriously tempting for Jesus? I bet that was the most intense temptation that he had ever gone through. Even more so than him going off into the wilderness. Because just think of the torment and the torture from the pain, physically and emotionally and spiritually, all at the same time. And I'm sure it was extremely tempting for him to call on the angels and say, "Get me down from this cross right now," which he could have done. But he stayed up there for our salvation. Verse 41, likewise the chief priests also mocking with the scribes and elders said, "He saved others. Himself he cannot save." Wow. "If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him." Wow. Wow. That just blows my mind. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now. If he will have him. Boy, talk about blaspheming and mocking and scoffing him. Just the abuse. Wow. For he said, I am the Son of God. And even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same. Wow. But then we know that the one thief did turn and believe in Jesus, and he became saved, which is amazing. So, but I wanted to point out how they were mocking and scoffing, and that had to be extremely tempting for him just to say, that's it, get me down from this cross. Get me down right now. But he did not do that because he knew that it would save millions, billions of people. That reminds me of that verse in Hebrews. Yeah, 12. So Hebrews 12:2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. So he was looking at the joy? Wow, that blows my mind. Wow. He endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Wow. That's amazing. So then I was looking at Psalm 22. All right. So let's look at that real quick here. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I just wanted to point out some verses. So the first part of Psalm 22, he's crying out to God, my God, why have you forsaken me? And from words that were his groaning. And that reminds me of Romans 8. Verses 23 and 26, where the Spirit will utter groanings that we have no words for. The Spirit intercedes for us. So he's crying out to God. He's suffering. My God, I cry in the daytime, but you do not hear, and in the night season, and am not silent. But then he shifts his focus in verse 3 from his suffering, then he looks to God the Father, and he says, but you are holy. So in the midst of his worst torment and torture, his focus, he shifted to the holiness of God, and he acknowledged how holy God is. But you are holy, enthroned in the praises of Israel. Our fathers trusted in you, they trusted, and you delivered them. They cried to you and were delivered. They trusted in you and were not ashamed. And then verse 6, he mentions he is a worm. Now that is referring to the scarlet worm. And you should look that up because Jesus is a type of that scarlet worm. And I'll let you do a study on what happens with scarlet worms and how Jesus is a type of that. And it's also John chapter 6 ties in with that scarlet worm. Okay. Now, these are the verses I wanted to share. Is Psalm 22 verse 7. All those who see me ridicule me. They shoot out the lip and they shake their heads, saying, he trusted in the Lord, let him rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. We just read that in Matthew 27. Identical. Identical. Then, verse 12, he's got many bulls, strong bulls of Bashan. Those are demons. They encircled him. And then it talks about the raging and roaring lion. So that's Satan himself. And then verse 14, he says, I'm poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax and is melted within me. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. And verse 16, for dogs have surrounded me. Now that's the Gentiles, so that would be the Roman soldiers. So he's got demons and Satan himself. That would be verse 12 and 13. And then he's got the Gentiles who are persecuting him as well. And then verses 7 and 8 are the religious leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Jews, the Jewish leadership. So it's just quite the picture of his torture, the torment that he went through. And because of what he went through, I wanted to point out, verse 24, it says, for he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, nor has he hidden his face from him. But when he cried to him, he heard. He hears us in our affliction because of what he went through. He can relate to our affliction. And that's just amazing because he's not far from us. He's relatable because of what he went through. So I wanted to point that out. Then Psalm 41. I wanted to point some verses out. So that would be verse 4 through 13. And it says, I said, Lord, be merciful to me. Heal my soul, for I have sinned against you. My enemies speak evil of me. When will he die, and his name perish? And if he comes to see me, he speaks lies. His heart gathers iniquity to itself. When he goes out, he tells it. All who hate me whisper together against me. Against me they devise my hurt. And isn't that the truth? How they were constantly plotting how they can kill Jesus. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were constantly devising evil plans to kill him. Verse 8, an evil disease, they say, clings to him, And now that he lies down, he will not rise up anymore. Oh, but he did rise from the dead. Verse 9, even my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. Now, this is referring to Judas. And that goes along with Genesis 3:15 about the heel. And John 13 verse 18 about the heel. But this also happened to King David. And that's in 2 Samuel 17, 1 through 4. With Ahithophel, who was very close to David. But when Absalom wanted to take over David's kingdom, Ahithophel decided to go with Absalom and side with him and kill David. So that's the story. So he betrayed David, King David, just like Judas did with Jesus. Identical. So that is 2 Samuel 17 verses 1 through 4. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, now let me choose 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue David tonight. I will come upon him while he is weary and weak, and make him afraid. And all the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike only the king. Then I will bring back all the people to you. When all return except the man whom you seek, all the people will be at peace. And the same pleased Absalom and all the elders of Israel. And then I want you to look at verse 14. It says, so Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushi, the Archite, is better than the advice of Ahithophel. For the Lord had purposed to defeat the good advice of Ahithophel, to the intent that the Lord might bring disaster on Absalom. So the Lord stepped in, and thank God that Absalom actually listened to Hushi, because Hushi was like a spy for King David. So Absalom was finally defeated. So it's amazing how God protected David through all of that. And his own children wanted to kill him. Boy, talk about dysfunction in the family. Wow. The other thing I want to point out is Genesis chapter 25. It's about when Rebekah gave birth to Esau and Jacob. So that would be verse 24 and 20 through 26. It says, so when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red, and he was like a hairy garment all over. So they called his name Esau. Afterward his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. And to this day, Esau, the Arabs, are trying to steal the birthright from Israel, telling them that they have no right to the land, which is a lie from the pit of hell. So it goes all the way back to actually Ishmael and Isaac and Esau and Jacob. It's the same old story, same old thing. It's been going on forever. But anyway, it mentions Esau's heel. Remember we talked about the heel in Genesis 3:15 and John 13:18, and also Psalm 41, 4 through 13. So I just wanted to share those verses with you, and I hope that this is a blessing to you. But when, I was reading those verses in Exodus, how he lifted up his hands, and Moses had to hold his hands up. And in that, Israel prevailed, which is actually amazing. And I'm sure it was very tempting for Jesus to come down off the cross. But I'm so thankful for his sacrifice, that he stayed up on the cross and he destroyed sin. Because he became sin for us. So we can have salvation and be reconciled to God the Father through him. He shed his precious blood for us. So, with that, guys, I just wanted to share those verses with you, and I hope that this brings encouragement, and I hope it's uplifting to you. So, and I do thank you for all your prayers. I really do need prayers right now for my back. So, alright, so hopefully I'll see you again soon, and I love you and God bless you. Bye.